Nice music to start the session. Thank you very much. We are
Indeed.
live, and thank you, Mike, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Say again?
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And today in our live, SportsTech Live, we would like to focus on a outstanding startup. And before we start, Mike, you're part of the High Global Virtual Accelerator, and I believe you took a decision around March, which was a bit extraordinary, where when the COVID, started, most of the people were still thinking what to do and what the impact, and you were jumping straight into a very active program. And I'm interested, after you will introduce your startup a little bit so people will get to know what you guys are doing. Also about, what happened then and how did the COVID impacted you as a fairly early stage company?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thanks for having me on. So a bit about me and what we're doing. We're based in New York. I started a hydration wearable company, the world's first compression sleeve worn on the forearm with an embedded hydration reservoir inside that's malleable, made of FDA food grade materials that could hold up to 12 ounces of water or Gatorade or whatever you want to put in it. But instead of wearing the uncomfortable, heavy, weird camelbacks or the hydration belt that looks like something straight out of the 70s, you can wear something on your arm and without having to break your stride or disrupt your natural athletic rhythm, just easily drink from your arm. So it's been a tremendous amount of fun. I would say certainly better than the corporate job I had before. I used to be an investment banker. And the idea was spurred out of personal necessity, where my partner and I were constantly getting dehydrated from paddleboarding, and we felt that there had to be something better out there. And when we realized there wasn't, we made it ourselves. As it relates to your question about coping with COVID, certainly I would say it was a very interesting time for us, and I would imagine every other startup as well. So I would say a couple things on that. First, the recognition immediately that, in times of crises, cash is king, and that so many investment funds would likely be triaging their existing portfolios for a while. So we had to be really smart about our burn rate. We had to hunker down, trim the fat where it made sense, and make sure that the runway was lengthened as much as possible, because no one really had the crystal ball back then, and we still don't. And I would say the second thing is that we noticed relatively quickly that everyone was spending more time in their homes, which means they were spending more time on their computer, which means we had more eyeballs in the pursuit of their retail therapy, so to speak. So we actually recognized that since we were D2C, mostly through online channels, this was an interesting opportunity for us to lean into the experience. And then over time, over the first couple months, we realized that consumer behaviors were changing across the board, and that behaviors that weren't normal or that we didn't think were normal then quickly became normal in a very short period. We have a very unique product in a very niche category that people just didn't know about. And I would say before, we thought maybe people needed to be educated about the brand. There was a higher cost of acquisition. But now that consumer behaviors were changing, people were open to new things to help them change their lives by way of convenience. Again, we saw that as an opportunity to lean into the experience. And I think Hype augmented that by opening up an ecosystem to us at the time where we felt we really had to push the pedal to the metal and tell the world about what we're doing here.
Got it. Just so people can understand how early you are. Obviously, you have a product. Yeah. What stage are you? Just so people can relate to it. You raised your first funds. How long you're running? What sales status you are? Just so people understand, where you are on the scale of an early stage startup.
Yeah, so we came to market in the summer of 2017. It took about a year or so to develop it. We brought in an internationally acclaimed development firm from Zurich, Switzerland, called Development Never Stops. They had won a record-breaking amount of ISPO awards in their outerwear sports category for innovation. And we came to market that summer on Kickstarter. We actually placed in the top 1% of all Kickstarter campaigns to date. So we really came in hot out of the gate. We got a lot of media accolades from the likes of Men's Health, CNBC, Yahoo, AOL. And then since then, we've been transitioning from the crowdsourcing space to traditional e-com. Certainly opened up an Amazon store. We've done a fair amount of wholesale business. We're now in pretty advanced conversations with several different prospective partners as it relates to some very interesting strategic initiatives for the business as it continues to grow. So we've achieved market validation as far as stage, probably in between the seed to Series A stage, if you were to classify us by startup acronyms. And yeah, we obviously have a good amount of sales, but there's always an opportunity to do better there, and we certainly intend to.
Absolutely. So we've just learned that when COVID started and you were looking around and seeing what's happening, it seems like you saw this as an opportunity to people are more on their computers, really to leverage this and to get maximum exposure. Also prices of online, paid campaign dropped. So I don't know if you took advantage of that as well. Did you have like a strategy around that, or it was more like, a day by day cases?
I mean, I wish I can say that I had this grandmaster plan where I knew how it was going to play out week by week. The reality is we recognized what was going on at a very broad, 10,000, maybe 20,000 foot level. But certainly, this is a once in 100-year thing. And back when the last pandemic hit in 1918, there was no internet or e-com. So there was really no historical precedence for going through this. Now that certainly creates opportunities. So I would say, I don't want to give ourselves too much credit in the sense that we realized that more macroeconomic things that were going around high level in the clouds, but just to say that I knew exactly how things were going to play out, or we had a strategy week by week as the pandemic really started to worsen and then we saw the second wave, that would be a miscategorization.
Got it. Now, in terms of actions, you mentioned that you were quite active on the marketing and social, and obviously you have a ready-to-sell product. Can you also give, if you can look at the 3 topics you were focusing on in the last, let's say, 4 months strategically?
Yeah.
What were they?
Yeah. So I would say one, we really tried to lean into optimizing our messaging and the story so that it resonated better with investors and our customers. As time went on, investors stopped triaging their existing portfolios and were more open to open opportunities that existed in the market with good terms that were mutually beneficial for both parties. And certainly for customers, I would say we had done a great job in Kickstarter particularly, but that's a very different audience than traditional e-com. So we realized that there were continuous optimizations to make. So we spent a lot of time really trying to figure out how we can optimize the messaging there. I'd say, through Hype, we also started to see how much of an opportunity there was, particularly in the European sports market, more so than we realized before. As I said, we are a US-based company, and predominantly pre-Hype, we were really focused on growing the business in the US. Not that we didn't pay attention to Europe at all, but I think Hype opened up our eyes to that. And, the ecosystem that came with that, connected to, the leadership team and the tentacles that you guys have with your connections around so many different verticals within the European sports market, made it easier for us now spend time over the last couple of months on opening up that part of the business too, coupled with the fact that we really wanted to spend time trying to secure the right strategic partners. And commensurate with that, I think Hype, as an example, has been an incredible partner in that as well, teeing up those conversations with meaningful strategic partners. So time will tell, but we'll see how that goes.
Excellent. Now, if I'm an entrepreneur which is looking at this session, whether it recorded or live, and I really have so much on my hands, we entrepreneurs, we are, we are all-round players. Yeah, we need to be experts in marketing and manage our budgets and, manage our employees and, create our vision and lead by example. And, we can make a list of hundreds of those. What are you would say from your experience in the last 4 months, what are the I would say, top 3 focuses that you took in order to take your company forward? And I know you have good investors as well. So whether you consulted with your investors on that, and what are the 3 main focuses that you took and you're focusing now?
Yeah, I'd say number one, having the right employees is of critical importance. I mean, when I thought about transitioning from working in the corporate world to being an entrepreneur, I used to think that the most important thing was having the right idea, and then second to that, or maybe small step down, just having the right transitional skill sets to build a business quickly. But as it turned out, I was wrong about that. The leadership team around you and the employees that you have are
how many people do you have on your team?
So we're a small team. We have 4, but it's a very strong team. So we have 4 full-time, and then we use consultants.
I would say key people in a startup is a world.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it makes all the difference. So I could have had 20 other employees that I could have interviewed for, and they wouldn't necessarily be doing the same thing as the 3 other people that we have. So that, I think, is one. And yeah, to your point, we have been consulting with our investors who, we try to bring in smart money beyond the check. Who bring advisory, who bring relationships, who have the ability to follow on with investments as the company continues to grow. So certainly we've benefited from the relationships that we've cultivated with our investors beyond just the checks that we've received from them. And I would say also the Hype program, I mean, you guys have had really meaningful week by week, thought leaders in so many different categories that we ourselves were looking to improve upon. So it was really well timed for us to get an expert in marketing, to get an expert in fundraising, to get an expert in storytelling, and you kind of hit the head week by week on all the things that we recognized we needed to do better now. So that was really helpful too, not only in the moment by listening to their presentations, but also the ability to interact with them after the fact, and maybe even build more meaningful relationships from a professional standpoint as time goes on, and we started to do that. So that, I think, is important to mention as well.
Great. Can you mention some of the people you met just as a reference that you can look to develop a relationship with, just so we can get an idea?
Yeah. So we just heard from Taylor Ryan, who's a growth hacking expert, and after that presentation, I was able to have a chat with him about different things that we could be doing better as a company, and he had done his homework, coming to the table with 20 different things that we could be doing better, that probably, because of his growth hacking abilities, took him all of 10 minutes to do. And it was pretty incredible to see and eye-opening. And I think for us, we would love to see if there's a way that we can work together as the company continues to move forward. That's just one example. I would say beyond even the speakers, also the the vertical leaders as well. So, Gerard Klein, who wasn't even our head as part of customization and sustainability, the vertical, he was focusing on the performance vertical, and he loved our idea so much, it resonated with him, and we're all part of the same hype family, and he was tremendous in making introductions, not only to people that he knew within the industry, but people maybe that was a second or third degree of connections away that he felt comfortable leaning into, and from a reputational risk perspective, and putting himself on the line for us. So that was really cool to see. And of course, the mentors that we had through our vertical, immensely helpful as well across the board. Ben, Daniel, I mean, it's just, you have a real amazing cast of characters, I'd say.
Excellent. Now, if we look at the future, I would say 1 to 2 years from now, how do you see that? Do you have like a winning picture of how it will look like in a year, 2 years time? It says, I always believe that for us to achieve our goals, we need to have a clear winning picture of where we want to be.
Yeah.
There is a story about Andre Agassi and Tony Robbins. What's the lesson that Tony Robbins learned from Agassi and vice versa? And Agassi was sharing when he had a period in his life that things didn't work. His wife, Steffi Graf, offered him to consult with Anthony Robbins, and by then Anthony Robbins wasn't regarded at all. He was like outsider. And, Agassi was so down, and he said, what the hell do I have to lose? And then he went to a process with Anthony Robbins where it was about visioning the future, visioning where, downsides where he was losing, and the feeling in the body. It's like process of, imagination process. And then imagining a winning feeling and how he took the Wimbledon. And through working with that process, he really felt that, he got out of there. And then he shared that this for him was very, very meaningful. And what happened then is that Tony Robbins became, through Agassi and his reputation, that helped Tony Robbins to become who he is today. And then he went to do a consulting for Clintons, and celebrities opened some additional doors for him. But I think point of the matter was about the ability to imagine where you can be in a few years' time. And, my question to you is, do you have a clear vision of that? And if you can share with us a little bit, how is it going to look like?
Yeah. So I love the manifestation part of this. And that was a session that we had early on with Hype. I recall that it was very powerful. So I didn't know the Tony Robbins story, but that's very interesting, and it makes a ton of sense. For us, I'd say, the evolution of the business model is, right now we came to market with a WETSLEEVE made of high performance materials that has a refillable drink pouch inside that encourages frequency of use, and it's meant to last a long time. So the customer is not necessarily incentivized to or need to buy many. They can buy one on each arm. They can buy one, a couple for their family, for their friends, but they're not making purchases every month. So when you think about the ability to move into that vertical where you kind of see that hockey stick style growth from the increase in usage, we believe that will come from a partnership with a premier beverage company that we can supply branded pre-filled drink pouches made of biodegradable or combustible materials that come already with a 10-pack of Gatorade or Powerade or whatever that you would either buy in the grocery store or by virtue of a subscription model that's delivered to your house. And it's quite similar to the razor blade model that Gillette pioneered some years ago, where for them the razor was a means to an end, and in our case the sleeve is a means to an end, even though that's the key feature right now. So I think that is where we envision ourselves going. We're already generating a good amount of interest from prospective large beverage companies. But when we see the cash cow opportunity, both from an impact and economic perspective, that is certainly where we envision the growth engine emanating from. And I would say I'm really cautiously optimistic that we're going to get there in the medium term.
Excellent. And if you look at the next, I would say, big milestone for you, what would that be?
Certainly, we have our own internal sales milestones, sort of internal hurdle rates where we believe once we reach that, then that makes sense to go out for a strong Series A. So we have our internal milestones as it relates to sales. The CAC, all the internal KPIs, we have our internal rates as it relates to that. There are ways to optimize that. Also, we're very keen on more strategic initiatives in the near term as it relates to finding the right influencers to help spread the gospel, so to speak. And this will help augment the partnership and collaboration process with some of the larger companies out there as we continue to do a better job of telling our story to the world. So I think that is another, kind of internal hurdle that that we're looking to check the box on meaningfully. So within the next 6 months is finding the right brand ambassadors and pioneers to help amplify the message in the right way.
Yeah. Got it. So it seems like you're very, I would say, process guy. You have clarity on I would say, the objectives coming forward, clarity on the strategic plans in terms of potential strategic partners. First of all, just to say that, we completed the accelerator program together, but, you stay and you are part of the Hype family, and we have now alumni program, and we would like to continue to support and see your growth. So it's not over yet, but I would like to ask you if, we are starting a new cycle coming up in November, and if you can share just from your experience, what are the, 3 major things you got out of the program for your startup? If you can just name the values that you got out of it. You mentioned few, but just if you can maybe summarize them for a new startup that is considering whether to join Accelerator, because, why would you need that? Let me be the devil's advocate for a second. You're an investment banker, you've been around, you know what it takes. Why would you invest your time in an accelerator program at all?
Yeah, so a couple of things, and I think for us, I can't speak highly enough about the experience, and this may overlap with some of the things I mentioned before, but it's important that this message resonates with the folks that are watching, no doubt. So, one, we clearly learned how to do a much better job of optimizing our story and the messaging that we needed to provide not only to investors but also to customers. That was critically important, and I had some understanding of ways to optimize it and some understanding of perhaps the shortfalls in what we were doing tangentially speaking, but it wasn't until we actually went through the mentorship exercises and listening to the great speakers and getting off the cuff advice from folks around the program that we really started to understand what the issue was and how we can optimize that. Two, for us, again, we were based in the US, we were US centric. We did not pay attention to the European market. That was a mistake. There's a huge opportunity there, and with the right relationships and the right infrastructure and the right support network, you can meaningfully penetrate that market. And I firmly believe now that, seeing what I've seen with Hype and the folks that they have in their leadership team and under the auspices of the umbrella organization, that's certainly the right network to tackle that market effectively, which we're doing now. And then just, as you said, there's an alumni element to this. For us, we certainly intend to stay close to the Hype community going forward. We continue to see a tremendous amount of value from talking to our mentors and the folks that took a keen interest in in us, not only through the program, but also listening to us on demo day and the investor summit. So we've made some really amazing connections because of it all over the world. And, we do have global ambitions, as I said. So I'm excited to see the next steps there. And ultimately, when you think about it, when you realize that whatever you're doing, there are ways to optimize, that inherently means that the status quo is not as tenable as one would think. You can't be complacent with what you have. So you have to be open to new possibilities and new realities. And I think, hype for us was a helpful component of that for sure.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Mike. Just to wrap up, any questions you want to ask me? Anything you wanted to to ask me, in the head of hype, or anything that of an interest to you?
Yeah, we've had good conversations before, so nothing really comes to mind. I'd say that it's been an absolute pleasure to be part of this. It's an honor and a humbling experience to go through the pipe on this program, and to just to be here, to be able to tell our story to the world. So I thank you. And it's been an honor getting to know you and getting to speak with you and learning more about your beginnings and how hype came to be. And I congratulate you for what you built. It's really awesome.
Thank you very much, Mike. I want to acknowledge you. I think that it takes something, I would say, in these special times to be out there on the pitch playing full out. And I think you've proven in the last few months that you are there and you have the full commitment to create something big out of your startup. I can, from the little I saw, there is, I would say, this DNA of always learning, always going to the next level coming from you. And I think that's probably the most important element of every entrepreneur, every founder, the ability to always strive for the next level in anything we do. And I think that perhaps, if as an investor today, that's, I would say, the virtue I look for the most. So yeah, as you said, it's just the beginning. We are, following you, and we would like to see this venture growing. I think you have a great technology and a great solution, which is, worldwide now and on the biggest stage. And I want to perhaps invite you again in a year or 2 years' time to share more about your journey.
Would love to be back, yes. And thank you very much for all the kind things that you said. I appreciate that.
All right. Bye for now.